Died at the age of 28. Today I'm going to tell you a sad story. It will last only about 7 minutes. Our hero for today, my brother, my sister, was born Nathaniel Nakasa on the 12th of May 1937. And he was born in Durban in the Natal, South Africa. Oh gosh. Nat Nakasa, as he was known, was born in Durban on the 12th day of May in 1937. His mother was simply called Alvina, and she was a teacher, whilst his father was called Chamberlain. Some people say Camberlain. He was a typesetter and a writer. So growing up, he only wanted to be a writer. His father bought him a number of books. He read the books, and his favorite subject in school was English language. He wrote very wonderful essays, and his father was so proud of him. My God. He wanted to take after his father. Yes, he wanted to teach as his mother, but he most wanted to write for the newspapers and also for the magazines. And his dream came true later on in life. His father and mother, Alvina and Camberlain, in fact, had 5 children, and our hero was one of them. They all attended the mission school at the Zulu Lutheran High School in Eshowe, completing this junior certificate early because they went to school so early. My brother, my sister, right after school, he took to journalism. Oh my God. He was interested in journalism, and therefore he went to journalism school. And he got a year later as a junior reporter at the Leanga Lassie Natal, a Zulu language weekly. And there, he was a junior reporter. He worked very hard, and he was so hardworking. But remember, this was in the days of apartheid. And we all remember apartheid, where black people had no right on their own land. Their land had been usurped by white people, and black people became the sacrifice. Black people were even less than animals, pets. He and other journalists writing for the Drum newspaper where he had been employed were influenced by the suppression of the Communism Act of 1950 and had to show the effects of apartheid indirectly on black lives without condemning it directly for fear of being banned from practicing journalism. In those days, every journalist would have to be quiet about apartheid. If you had to speak about apartheid, then you had to speak about the positive aspects. Any newspaper that wrote against apartheid was banned. Our hero for today decided that no, apartheid was evil, and he would have to write against apartheid. My brother, my sister, we all remember the Sharpeville massacre of 1960, where about 67 black people were gunned down in the days of apartheid. Anytime I go to South Africa, I go and visit the scene of the Sharpeville massacre, my brother, my sister. My brother, my sister, the world took an interest in South Africa right after the Sharpeville massacre of 1960. And so in 1961, he was asked to write an article entitled "The Human Meaning of Apartheid" for the New York Times. In his own country, he was not permitted to write anything evil about apartheid. But the New York Times realized he was a very good writer. So they contacted him in 1961 and asked him to write an article and even gave him a title, "The Human Meaning of Apartheid." And he wrote. Drum struggled to keep its black writers due to the severe restriction they found themselves in, and many went into exile in Europe and America. Oh, but our hero decided that he would write, and he wrote for the New York Times. Hey. Yes, a lot of newspapers were banned. Black people did not even have an all-black newspaper. All the newspapers and the media houses were owned by whites in South Africa for fear that black people would write against apartheid and other ills. My God. They never gave black people the license to open up and write and even own media houses. Our hero wrote, 2 years after he got the title, the Publications and Entertainment Act was passed, which allowed the South African government broad powers to ban or censure content it deemed unfavorable to the interest of the country, further hindering Nakasa's work as he intended to stay within the law. But Nakasa, at a point, our hero, decided that enough was enough. In 1964, 10 years before I was born, the same year Lucky Dube was born, Nakasa applied for a Nieman Fellowship, a journalism program of Harvard University, out of fear for his future employment prospects in South Africa, and was accepted for the 1965 intake. So he was even scared to do journalism in South Africa. He applied and was taken to do it at Harvard University, using the conduit of the Nieman Fellowship, which was a journalism program. At the same time, Alistair Sparks, editorial page editor of the white anti-apartheid newspaper, the Rand Daily Mail, invited Nakasa to write a black perspective column for the paper, and he became the very first black columnist in the history of South Africa. Did you hear that? Our hero for today became the very first black columnist that is writing a column in the newspaper for the Rand Daily Mail, a white anti-apartheid newspaper. My God. On accepting a Nieman Fellowship, Nieman applied for a passport. But like many other black intellectuals, he was refused a South African passport on his own land. He was only permitted to leave South Africa if he was ready to relinquish his South African citizenship. Imagine. But he wanted to leave South Africa so that he could fight apartheid outside South Africa. So he accepted to leave South Africa without a passport, my brother, my sister. And when he left, he was never ever supposed to return to South Africa. But unbeknownst to Nakasa, the South African police had been monitoring him since 1959 and were about to issue him with a 5-year banning order under the Suppression of Communism Act when he left for the United States in October 1964. So it meant that his leaving South Africa was a blessing. The South African government had looked at him and monitored him and realized that he was a dangerous writer, writing for the freedom of black people. So when he left for America, when he arrived in America, he was told that, well, the South African government is not ready to have you back in South Africa. In fact, he became so lonely. He loved his South Africa. Our hero for today longed to go back to South Africa. He cried every day. He wrote a lot for the newspapers in America. Nakasa soon found that racism existed in America as well. Albeit more subtly, Nakasa didn't like New York City at all and soon moved to Cambridge, Massachusetts, where he spent his time at Harvard, steeped in the somber business of education. Whilst attending the Nieman Fellowship, he participated in protest meetings against apartheid at Cambridge, Massachusetts, and in Washington, D.C., and unsuccessfully attempted again to write an article for the New York Times. Oh my God. It didn't happen. They didn't take it this time because they saw him as too militant. He was depressed. He felt very, very betrayed. He should have stayed in South Africa and fought his battle. He completed his Nieman Fellowship at the end of June 1965, by which time he was short of money and his attempted to extend his visa beyond August seemed unsuccessful. Now living in Harlem, He wrote articles for several newspapers after leaving Harvard, appearing in the TV series The Fruits of Fear, and was planning to write a biography of Miriam Makeba. But 2 days before his death, he told a friend, "I can't laugh anymore. And when I can't laugh, I can't write." Remember our proverb for today? Siru Yedur. He said he couldn't laugh. And once he couldn't laugh, he couldn't write. And he didn't feel like living. He was sick. Nakasa seemed homesick, unable to return to South Africa, unsettled, and he started drinking. He became depressed and confessed to a friend by name Nadine Gordina that he was worried he had inherited his mother's mental illness. Yes, his mother was mentally ill and suffered from that. On the 14th of July 1965, he committed suicide when he jumped from his friend's 7-story apartment. Oh, as it was not possible to bring his body home because the apartheid government in South Africa would not even receive him whilst he was alive, let alone when he was dead. He was buried at the Ferncliff Cemetery in upstate New York. A headstone placed by the Neiman Foundation 30 years later simply reads, Nathaniel Nakasa, May 12, 1937 to July 14, 1965. Journalist, Neiman Fellow, South African. Oh my God. But in 2014, South Africans had succeeded in fighting after they had won independence to bring the body of our hero back to South Africa, where it was reburied. He was reburied on the 30th of September 2014 near his childhood home in Chesterville, a township outside Durban. The ceremony was preceded by a procession of his coffin. Yeah, the procession was very big through Chesterville before his remains were interred at Chesterville's Heroes Acre. Today we remember, oh, Nathaniel Nakasa. Oh, Nathaniel. Yeah, Nathaniel. Oh, Nathaniel, your legacy lives on. Today we remember you, Papa. You died without a wife. You died without a child. Oh, Nakasa. Uninyaminko. Oh, Missy Minube Kawate. Fami Kawate. Fami Kodamabre. Missy Fami Kawate. Fami Kawata. Yeah, Nathaniel Ndazana Nakasa. Born on the 12th of May 1937. He committed suicide on the 14th of July in 1965 after suffering depression. Oh, Uncle Nat. Missy Minube Kawata. Famiko. Uniyaminko. In the burden of knowledge, I ask you, now that you know, what will you do? Be an any ole mini oba feye zuda kagane mezaka yine. Ye pa bango bokaya nungfifia ye nya. Nukai na woba na ye nwebe den. Lele ya njima singa be kone. Lele ya njima singa bere.
Tutu bovi. Papa mu.